In order to be the best, you gotta beat the best. The 9-1 Denver Broncos are coming to town in a pivotal late season matchup with major playoff implications inside of the AFC. We're currently 5-5, firmly in the mix in a very competitive wild card race, and a win today would be absolutely massive for our playoff chances, but it's not going to be easy. These Broncos have been arguably the best team in the NFL this year. We've got another prospect profile. We'll be going over the running backs and wide receivers in this year's draft class. I appreciate everyone's patience from the last episode to this one. I've been working hard on the draft class because, man, that is not easy. It's not going to be easy to make it out of this AFC either. Now, there are only 4 teams over 500, and 3 of them are in the AFC West, but really everyone is in the mix other than the Jets and maybe the Texans, which makes it all the more embarrassing that we just got blown out by the Texans in the last episode. We split with them and the Saints. We allowed 28 points per game, but it was really clear that the defense actually played very well, and that was the furthest thing from a problem against Houston. Kieran Riddle threw 2 interceptions. Shedeur Sanders replaced him off the bench. He threw 1 as well. Really rough game from Kieran Riddle. Yes, he threw 3 touchdowns, but 2 of them were to the other team. Azeez Al-Shaair and Defensive Rookie of the Year candidate Cody Lemidir. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson picked off Shedeur Sanders, put the Texans in field position for another touchdown. Houston really didn't move the ball. We had 100 more yards than them. The defense really only allowed 10 points, for all I care. And then against New Orleans, Tyler Shough had some big plays through the air, but he was also sacked 6 times. This is what we've been waiting for from the defense and Myles Garrett. We've been towards the bottom in sacks this year, and we finally had the big game for the pass rush. Kieran Riddle, meanwhile, 4 touchdowns. Dorian Sahara led the way. Jontre Hickson, David Njoku, welcome back. And Jerry Jeudy also scored. Riddle and Garrett both won the Players of the Week, along with the NFL MVP frontrunner Jackson Dart and the former Cleveland Brown Devin Bush. So before we continue into our game against the Broncos, of course, we do have a prospect profile. We'll be going over the running backs and wide receivers in this year's class. We've already gone through the quarterbacks. I have not touched the order of the QBs since that episode. I think the big change probably would be that Wyatt Cruz, his stock certainly has gone up. He looks the part of a first rounder. I think Max Logan from Notre Dame is playing well. I think Hoppy Reynolds from LSU is playing well. But we're focused on the skill positions today. 2 of the more fun positions to monitor in college football. We'll start with running back. We've got a really nice tandem as is with Quinshon Judkins and Dylan Sampson, both of whom are really young, only 22 and 21 years old respectively. The 2 of them have combined for around 1,000 yards. Their numbers this year are basically dead even in terms of carries, yards, touchdowns, although Judkins does have 3 fumbles to none for Sampson. They've both been effective through the air, nearly 500 yards receiving. We've got a good thing with these 2 guys, and I see no reason to change that. But at some point, both of them are going to need contract extensions, and I don't think it's reasonable, if we're looking into the future, that both of them would get paid if they continue on their current trajectories. So it might not be the worst idea to start planning ahead a little bit while also keeping tabs on some of the top guys in this year's class. It's a pretty deep group, I feel like, at running back. There's a lot of guys in the mix for RB2 right now. However, I do feel pretty confident at the moment that the RB1 in this class will be Amari Blue out of Notre Dame. He was the preseason RB1 going into the year, and I would argue he's actually been a little disappointing this year, but he's been really good. He was the backup last year behind Jaden Williams at Notre Dame. Williams gets hurt, Blue comes in, and he plays outstanding. He had 200 yards in the first round of the playoff against Ole Miss. He was the best player on the field in that game as a redshirt freshman. This year, he becomes the starter, obviously, at Notre Dame, with Williams now as his backup. Blue is 5'9", 190 pounds, and what I find interesting about his game is oftentimes when you have a running back who's going to get picked possibly in the first round, you're looking at someone with immense physical gifts. Saquon Barkley's overall athleticism, Jahmyr Gibbs' speed, etc. You get the point. I don't know if I really see that, though, of Amari Blue, especially in comparison to the other running backs in this class. What Blue does have is overall polish. His ball carrier vision is really impressive. He knows how to hit the hole, but he's also athletic enough to dance around on the outside and make guys miss. His efficiency has gone down a little bit, but I feel like he's played a little bit better as the year has gone along, and he's still performing at a super high level. 660-plus yards, 12 touchdowns. He's given Notre Dame more volume through the air. This is a guy who can stay on the field on third down. So I think when you look at the overall polish and a guy who I expect to be really good right away at the next level, that's Amari Blue. From there, we look at all the guys in the mix right now in the second round who could be the RB2. And we'll start with Bryce Davis from LSU, who has been one of college football's most improved players. A highly regarded recruit who has really taken a major leap in each of his 3 seasons with the Tigers and now finds himself as the focal point of a really strong offense with Hoppy Reynolds and company. LSU would probably need to win out to make the playoff. They already have 2 losses, but if they do, they have a really fun team, of course, led by Davis, who moves really well at his size, 6 foot, 180, but he can really make guys miss. He's pretty fast, but again, kind of like Amari Blue, I wouldn't say he's physically gifted in comparison to the other backs in this class, but he's averaging 6 yards a pop. He's averaging nearly 100 yards a game, and he's a really solid pass-catching back. Again, someone who's going to stay on the field on third down. After Davis, we'll take a look at Marcel Merrick out of the University of Tennessee, and it has been a very disappointing season for the Vols. They made the playoff last year. They got blown out in the first round by USF, and it feels like that game kind of killed their program's momentum because now they're 3-5. Merrick was the only guy on offense who showed up in that game against South Florida in the playoff, and his success is carried over into his redshirt junior season. Merrick is 5'10", 190 pounds. As we look at his skill set, this is someone who is probably a little bit faster than both Blue and Davis, another guy who can really make opposing defenders miss in space, but he's also got another level of physicality to him. This is someone who I really trust to run downhill in between the tackles, and he as well is one of the better pass-catching backs in this class. A lot of these top guys can stay on the field on third down. That's why the NFL is intrigued with these players. His passing numbers don't look crazy. He doesn't catch the ball that often, but he can really block and he can get open as a route runner. So I think Marcel Merrick is a guy who really fits the modern NFL game quite a lot. He was actually a player Virginia Tech recruited after pretty hard. We ended up with a different running back that cycle in Mark Armstrong. Cedric Carter could have declared for the draft last year. Instead, he decided to bet on himself, and it looks like he will win big. Not like Emmanuel Clase and Luis Ortiz, though. So Carter last year at Ole Miss scored, 28 rushing touchdowns, something ridiculous. He was a dominant short yardage back, a beast in the red zone, but he's added to his game this year. He was probably going to be a 3rd or 4th round pick a year ago, but this year he's become so much more well-rounded. Not to mention he still has 17 touchdowns in 7 games. That hasn't gone away, but what he's added is a little bit more dynamite in space. He can make guys miss. He can shake defenders out of their boots a little bit, and he's improved as a pass catcher as well. He's added an all-around element to his game, and rather than having a niche short yardage skill set, and his stock is most certainly on the rise right now. Evan Sutton from Alabama is definitely one of the more polarizing players in this class. He's so dynamic, he's so quick, he's so fast, he's so explosive, but he's 180 pounds generously. He has a very small and wiry frame, and it's already caused him injury issues during his collegiate career. He's missed some time this year at Alabama. Last year at Marshall, he missed most of the year. He only ended up playing 5 games. Now, he is pretty much healthy at this point, which is a big deal that Alabama's going to get him for the back end of their season and their push for the playoff. And as we look at his skill set, this is a guy who I think early on will probably be best as a scat back, a guy who's a change of pace player, and someone who you have in there to provide the home run play. He can turn any run into a big one. I don't know if he's necessarily the most consistent bell cow running back yet. Marshall really didn't use him that way. They kind of limited his touches. Now, he's gotten the ball a lot each and every game at Alabama, and he's been really good, which makes me think that he can be an every down runner in the NFL. It's hard to find somebody with his skill level and explosiveness. If he adds weight, though, he might lose a little bit of speed, which isn't ideal. So he's definitely polarizing. I really have no clue where he's going to end up going, but because of his speed and athletic profile, for now I'm thinking the second round. Now, if we were to rank these guys solely based off of this year, Bronson Truman has been the best running back in the country. I mean, he is balling right now for an Illinois team that very quietly is ranked in the top 5. They have not lost yet this year. They just keep winning and winning and winning, and Bronson Truman is the reason why. A 5'10", 220-pound bulldog. This guy is so tough to bring down. He's so physical. He's so strong, but he's athletic, man. He can really run. Now, Truman's story is interesting because he ran for 1,000 yards as a true freshman. Then Illinois brings in Anthony Anderson, who became the starter. Truman was the backup. He was the RB2. He played a role over the last 2 years, but not as much as he could have. Anderson leaves, ends up going in the third round of the Bills. Truman gets his starting spot back, where he's averaging 8 yards a carry and 134 yards a game. Why did he not transfer, is my question. Illinois really didn't use him properly over the last couple of years. Give him a ton of credit for sticking it out, and I think NFL teams are going to admire that about his character, that he's willing to battle through adversity even when times are rough. Let's look down the board a little bit into some of the more third to fourth round guys. We've got a few intriguing players, especially from the ACC here. We'll start with Denzel Bond out of Florida State. We will discuss him a little bit further. Bond has missed some time this year. He's recovering from an injury. 5'10", 205, really fast, really athletic. He's one of the fastest backs in this class, but he's 25 pounds heavier than Evan Sutton. So already, that's a pretty good starting point when comparing the two of them, because I do think Bond would play a similar role. Now, I don't think Bond is anywhere near as efficient of a runner as Evan Sutton is. He's averaged a little under 5 yards a carry over the last 3 years as the regular starter at Florida State. And while that's definitely not bad, you would kind of hope it would be a little bit higher, at least certainly in comparison to the other running backs in this class. He's a little bit inconsistent, it feels like, at times. He's had some bad games over the last couple of years, and he's missed a handful of games as well over his career due to injury, so that'll be something to monitor as well. He is a really good pass-catching back, though. They haven't used him as much as a receiver this year, but he's one of the better receiving backs in this class. We'll go through a couple of these other guys quicker. Braden Rodgers from North Carolina, really talented player who was really disappointing early in his career at UNC, but he's really figured things out. Was injured in their last game, a loss against Boston College, but he will be healthy this week against Virginia Tech. Deontay Stephen, one of the most improved backs in the country, over 100 more yards per game than last year. The problem is he's really slow, but otherwise he's averaging almost 140 yards a game, and he's doing it on absurd efficiency. Let's now look at this group, a few guys who we have had the pleasure of coaching and using over the years, not just in the Virginia Tech series, but dating back in time to the Kansas Dynasty. For those wondering, at the end of the Kansas Dynasty, I said that I planned on doing something special for each season into the future. I still want to. I don't know what that's going to look like. My original plan was to have like a full season in every episode. I don't think that's very reasonable. We're going to do something, though. So we will find out what happens in the senior season of Ty Lord. And when we last saw Ty, he scored the game-winning touchdown in the national championship. He was the RB2 behind Cornell Teamer, who was the Dallas Cowboys' first-round pick this past year. Ty Lord was a great compliment. He's not the fastest, but he's really quick on his feet. He's got great footwork, phenomenal pass-catching back. Now, his receiving numbers were a little bit lower this year, but a big reason for that is over the last couple of years, we actually had Ty Lord lined out at receiver quite often. We didn't do that as much with him as a junior this year, where he ran for 5.5 yards a carry and 13 touchdowns. With Cornell Teamer gone, he gets to be the RB1. So I'm excited to see what he can do as a senior, getting a bigger bulk of the load. Pause. Next up, we've got Chris Mickens from Virginia Tech. Of course, we've got him right now. Mickens is one of the most polarizing running back prospects in this class. He is more agile, and he can switch directions quicker than any running back, hell, any player in this year's class. His footwork, his foot speed is incredible, but he's small, 5'10", 190. He's really not that fast. Only 89 speed in the game. That's going to be lower in Madden. He also doesn't really have a power element to his game. He's not someone who's going to run between the tackles and break through defensive linemen. That's not his game. He's at his best in space. When he was at UMass, they used him a little bit more as a pass catcher, whereas we have used him just primarily as a runner while trying to limit his touches. I don't want to run him into the ground. UMass did. They gave him the ball 350 times a year. I don't want to kill his legs. Nonetheless, though, Mickens is having a great year. He's coming off, in my opinion, the best game of his season against East Carolina. Super efficient runner, super dynamic in space. If you leave him one-on-one with a defensive back, he is going to make the guy miss, and he is going to turn it into a big run. We haven't used him a ton as a receiver this year, but he is one of the best pass-catching backs in the class. The problem is we have Ashwell Virgo, who does a lot of that. Right behind him at 102 is Mark Armstrong from Texas Tech, who has been the starting running back at Virginia Tech over the last 3 years, and it feels like the transfer portal swap, if you will, benefited everybody. Texas Tech adds a true RB1 in Mark Armstrong, something that they lacked last year during their championship run. We got Chris Mickens, who I think is a better fit for our offense. UMass isn't a winner, so our apologies to them. Armstrong is 5'10", 220, downhill, physical runner, certainly good in short yardage spots, but he's also pretty good in space. He had some big runs for us last year, especially in that Virginia game, the final game of the regular season, where he completely took over. It felt like he was really banged up throughout all of last year, though, so we weren't able to give him the role that I had hoped. I give him credit for playing every game, though. He was a tough cookie. Transfers to Texas Tech, where he has leveled his game up. He's played better this year than I've ever seen him. And it didn't take long to realize that we were getting a different Mark Armstrong, who is pretty good in the passing game for a receiving back. His sophomore and junior year receiving numbers are exactly identical. Yards, catches, touchdowns, that's pretty ironic. But we got to play against Armstrong the first week of the year, and he was really good. 112 yards on the ground and a rushing touchdown to go along with the game-winning receiving touchdown in the final seconds. Mark Armstrong is balling. He's given that Red Raider offense an entire new dimension that they didn't have last year when they still ended up winning the national championship. So imagine how dangerous they will be this year, likely headed back to the playoff, currently 8-0, ranked number 6, which is insanely disrespectful. They should be higher. In terms of some day 3 names to watch out for, the 2 that stick out to me are these first 2. Tamario Harold from Nebraska will start there. Now, there's a good chance he does return to school, but if he does enter the class, he's a really interesting player. 6 foot, 230 pounds. I think he's been a little underwhelming this year as a junior after he was a star, a superstar last year as a sophomore. He's an awesome player, though. He rocks. 6 foot, 230, total bowling ball. But there's one major problem. He is slow as hell. He does not have NFL speed at the running back position. If he had even average running back speed, he would probably go in the first round, which speaks to, first of all, how good the rest of his game is. He's a first-round caliber back, but it also speaks to how slow he is. He's so slow that his stock is moving down at least 3 rounds. That's not really something he can work on and train for, unfortunately. The rest of his game is so good. So he's definitely polarizing, and I'm really curious to see, I mean, for one thing, if he enters the class, but also what his NFL role would look like. I miss Nazir Tolbert, a.k.a. Big Jaw. We had him for 3 years at the University of Kansas, where he was a really good short yardage power back. And going into his redshirt junior season, I was ready to make him the captain of the offense. He was going to be maybe not the guy in terms of touches per se, but he was going to be the guy in terms of leadership. Decides to transfer to TCU, which I understand. He was going to be the RB3 with us. He became the starter at TCU, where he was more than a short yardage guy. He averaged 6 yards a pop. In a lot of ways, kind of similar to Mark Armstrong, transferring to Texas Tech. I think Armstrong's been a little bit better than Tolbert, and Armstrong also has more starting experience from the past. But I like Nazir Tolbert a lot. I think him and Armstrong are honestly quite similar. Let's move down the board a little bit. Tremaine Whitehart from Ohio State was a complimentary piece for the first 3 years of his career, has become the starter this year, and he's really played well over the last couple of weeks, coming along nicely. Colin Sears from Arizona State, kind of a similar story. First year as a full-time starter where he's been really impressive. Jaden Williams from Notre Dame, the opposite. He's played at 3 different schools, Missouri, Iowa State. Notre Dame was the starter last year. Got hurt, replaced by Amari Blue, but he's carved a niche little role as the Robin to Amari Blue's Batman. He's done really solid this year, although he is 24. Jermel Hobbs from Miami of Ohio, super productive. Same can be said for Jermaine Hightower-Jones, who won the rushing title last year in college football, and this year he's averaging an extra yard per carry. I like Raiden Dragos from East Carolina a lot. We just got to see him in the Virginia Tech dynasty. He looked really good. And then Brenton Volk from South Florida. He will run the fastest 40 time of the running back crop. He is super quick. All right, let's move over to the wide receiver position. Last year, I felt like this was our biggest weakness. I still feel like it's a spot we could get better at. We did draft Dorian Sahara from James Madison in the first round, giving Kieran Riddle a weapon who he was already familiar with. Dorian has star, by the way. I don't know if I've formally mentioned that, but he does have star development. We drafted him with the idea that he can become the best receiver after the catch in the National Football League. Things started kind of slow. Through week 8, he only had 8 catches. He had a couple plays early against the Bucs, nothing against Carolina. Good game in week 3 against Baltimore. but then missed most of our next 2 games and was out for a few weeks. Since coming back from injury, 5 for 69, 6 for 133, 8 for 131 with touchdowns in all 3 of those games. He has really come along nicely and has quickly turned into arguably the best weapon on this offense. We've got Jerry Jeudy, who has another year left on his contract. He's certainly a serviceable guy, but he is going to be 28 years old next year. And then behind that, receiver still feels like kind of a question mark. Jamari Thrash is okay as a role player. I do like the production we've gotten out of Jontre Hickson. I feel like he's played well given the opportunity, and he'll continue to get more reps. But he's also fairly athletically limited, and his ceiling isn't overly high. Now, as we look at this receiver class, there's been a lot of movement throughout the year. A lot of guys are playing really well, and what I would have expected at the beginning of the year really has not materialized with this class. Demir Savage from Ohio State I thought was going to be a top 5 to 10 pick. Other guys like Marquise Maryland and Preston Wells, who maybe not going into this year, but at one point looked like first rounders, now they might not get drafted. Now, there's only one thing that has stayed the same with this receiver class from the start of the year to now, and that's Sir Odiah Nobles from Tennessee being the RB1. He won the Sean Alexander Award last year as college football's top freshman, dominating at Georgia, where he was the wide receiver 1 and Brian Maddie was the wide receiver 2. Nobles was clearly the guy. He transferred to Tennessee, which was a major surprise in the offseason. Georgia's entire offseason was a shock. Now this year, Brian Maddie's been one of the top receivers in the country. He's averaging 150 yards a game. Sir Odiah Nobles has been really good. He's still going to be a top 10 pick. He's still probably going to be the wide receiver 1. But I can't help but feel like he regrets leaving Georgia for a 3-5 Tennessee team that is completely out of the playoff race. Looking at Noble's skill set, he's 6'4", 210 pounds, and he really just checks off all the boxes. He's physical at the catch point. He's got great body control at his size. He's really fast for his size. The one question with him is that he does kind of have a little bit of a drop issue. His hands are not all that good, to be completely honest, but that's something that can be improved upon. What I don't think can be improved upon, aside from being 6'4" with 90-some speed, is that he's just such a natural at the position in terms of running routes and getting open. He's averaging still almost 100 yards a game at Tennessee. He's only scored twice. He's playing really well, but I do kind of think he wishes he stayed at Georgia. Behind him, we've got some guys who are in the mix for the Heisman, who have played really well this year on some really good championship contenders, and that starts with one of the biggest overall risers of the year, Parker Zasco from Southern Miss. He was a gem hiding in plain sight. He didn't really come out of nowhere per se. He had 1,000 yards as a true freshman at Duke. After another solid season with the Blue Devils, he transfers to SMU, where I'm pretty sure he did lead the Mustangs in receiving last year. Granted, their offense was very balanced. Everybody got the ball. Their top 6 receivers were within like 200 yards of each other. 5'11", 190, I would describe him as a good but not great athlete. I definitely see him as a guy who can win on the slot as a route technician, but I do think he can win on the outside as well. So I think that versatility will kind of remind teams a little bit of a guy like Jackson Smith-Njigba with Seattle. His breakout this year with SMU didn't come out of nowhere. He had 1,000 yards as a true freshman at Duke. Played really well with SMU last year, but he's just leveled up this year. He has 20 touchdowns through 8 games. That's nuts. Had 4 most recently against Pitt, winning the National Offensive Player of the Week. He has scored multiple touchdowns in 6 out of 8 games this year. That is nuts. He's just open, it feels like, on every play. And he's turned a third of his receptions practically into touchdowns. He's been nuts and may very well win the Heisman. He is currently the favorite. Nazir Ishmael from Virginia Tech. What a season he has had for our Hokies. Going into the year, I thought there was a chance he'd be on NFL radars, maybe a mid-round guy. Maybe he goes back to school his senior year. No, that's not happening. It was evident early, week 1 against Texas Tech, that his game had leveled up. He just looked a little bit different. 6'5", he's gigantic, 200 pounds, he's really fast at his size. Last year, I think he was a good player, although he was kind of disappointing early in the year. Got better as the season went along, but it was easy to tell early on that his routes were so much sharper. It felt like he was open every play. His hands got better. He became more dynamic after the catch. Every single area of his game improved. In 7 games this year with questionable quarterback play, he has 822 yards and 9 touchdowns, having scored in every game this year, and he has at least 100 yards in 6 out of 7. Funny. He's already broken the school record for career receiving touchdowns previously set by Isaiah Ford, and he's going to break all of Isaiah Ford's single-season records. He's having one of the all-time offensive seasons in the history of Virginia Tech football, and will likely parlay that into being a first-round draft pick, and certainly deservedly so. Behind Ishmael, we've got Amari Simpkins Jr. from Ole Miss. Now, I don't really think there's going to be 6 receivers that go in the first round. I know there are 6 guys in the top 32. I would guess if the draft were to be today, 1 or 2 of these guys would probably slip out. Maybe that ends up being Simpkins. But he's had a great season this year. He was excellent as a redshirt freshman last year, and he really competed with Sir Nobles for the Freshman of the Year award. The problem is he played at Northern Illinois. So, obviously, they're going to give it to the Georgia player over NIU. 6'5", 206 pounds. Physically, he has some similarities to Nazir Ishmael. I think the one difference between the two of them, and hence why Ishmael is higher, is because he's quite a bit faster. But otherwise, Amari Simpkins is awesome. Excellent freshman year at Northern Illinois. He's been excellent this year at Ole Miss. The Rebels got a bunch of receivers in the transfer portal. He was like the 3rd best receiver they got, but he has clearly been the man. He's awesome. He looks the part of the first rounder. His combination of size, fluidity, routes, and hands, not easy to come by. This is a guy who wasn't a super highly regarded recruit, played in the MAC last year, took advantage of the transfer portal, and seems like a player who I think is going to be really good at the next level. Alex Almonte from Washington, 6'2", 210 pounds. I like Almonte a lot. This is another guy who, to me, really checks off a lot of boxes. I don't watch his game and feel concerned about really anything that he brings to the table. He's not as tall as some of the other receivers we've gone over today, like Nobles and Ishmael and Simpkins. This really is all about the tall receivers in this year's draft class. Almonte's pretty fast. I would say he's quicker than fast. He's got excellent hands. He doesn't drop anything. He's a solid route runner. I wish he was able to stretch the field a little bit more vertically, and I also wish he was a little bit more consistent as a separator. But overall, really, really good player. He's been excellent since his redshirt freshman season at Washington, firmly carrying over now as a sophomore. I would argue, with anything, he's leveled up his game a little bit so far this season. He's averaging 115 yards a game. I mean, he's been awesome this year for the Huskies. And again, looks the part of a first rounder. Washington has a bunch of guys on that offense who I think are really good. The other guy projected in the top 32 right now is Brian Matty out of Georgia. He's also gigantic, 6'5", 205. As I mentioned just a second ago, it really is the year. If you need a tall receiver, there's a lot of them. So Brian Matty's interesting because he was the wide receiver 2 last year behind Nobles. He was good, but not great. I mean, I kind of assumed he was going to stay at school another 2 years, but in terms of his long-term NFL draft outlook, I saw him as a day 3 guy. Round 6, round 7. No, he's not going on day 3. He is averaging 150 yards a game right now. He's been insane. He's really fast for being 6'5". Good route runner. He's super quick, super agile, physical at the catch point. If I had a Heisman vote right now, he would be my pick. He's been the best player in America this year. He would be on pace. Let's say Georgia plays 16 games. Let's say they make a full run to the national championship and they win the SEC. He'd be on pace for 2,400 yards, which would shatter the all-time record. Now, that's probably not going to happen. He would have to play 16 games first. It's probably going to be against better competition. So it feels unlikely, but that just speaks to how dominant he has been this year with a first-year starter at quarterback, no less. I just know Sir Nobles wishes he was getting force-fed in that Georgia offense. Amir Anthony from Alabama is a really solid player. He's been the number 3 for a little bit, behind guys like Moses Lexington, who's now with the Panthers, and Trey Lawson, who's now with the Jaguars. Anthony's gotten his opportunity to be the number 1, and he's been really impressive. On one hand, you could make the argument that, sure, it's easier to get the ball as the number 1 because the quarterback is looking your way more. But that also means the defense is putting more attention on you. And part of the reason why Lexington and Lawson were so effective last year is because defenses had to pay attention to Amir Anthony. I don't think Alabama, at least right now, has another true NFL prospect at receiver. So Anthony gets all the attention. He has a new quarterback this year. No more Kieran Riddle. Now it's Denny Love, who's still good, really good, but no Kieran Riddle. So despite all those things going against him, he's still balling. He has 14 touchdowns in 8 games this year, averaging over 100 yards per game, and he's in the top 5 of the Heisman race with Brian Matty and Parker Zasko. I don't think he's been as impressive as those guys, but he's not really far off. 6'2", good speed, runs elegant routes, certainly in the conversation for the first round. We got to watch Judah Yesufu up close and personal against Clemson. We've played really well against good receiver prospects in this series. Dorian Sahara, Nathan Wilson, amongst others last year. Judah Yesufu did not struggle. Actually, it was quite the opposite. He had 7 catches, 130-some yards. I think he scored twice. He's the real deal. 6'6", 224. He's huge, first of all. Second of all, he's a total freak show. He's super fast. He doesn't drop the ball. He's one of the most agile players in the class, despite the fact that he's so big. Spent his first 2 years at Louisville, was one of the top players in the portal at Clemson, and he has been worth every penny. He has been awesome. He is the best player on that Clemson team. And when we played against Clemson this year, the 2 best players on the field were very clearly Judah Yesufu and Nazir Ishmael. Those guys were far and away better than everybody else. Hence why both of them are going to get drafted quite highly this year. It feels like every receiver in this class checks off the box in terms of height, weight, speed, and production. All these guys are big, all these guys are fast, and they're all really damn good. Nick Winton from North Carolina is the next on that list. Winton's a guy who I feel like in most draft classes would be seen as the highly athletic receiver who's 6'5", is going to run a good 40 time, and teams are going to drool over. But in this class, where the average height is like 6'4.5", it feels like, he just kind of feels like everyone else. I've always thought of Winton as a good long-term prospect. He played really well against Virginia Tech last year, and we'll get to see him as they play Virginia Tech next. I didn't think he'd be this good this quick. However, he's averaging over 107 yards per game with, in my opinion, questionable quarterback play. I think he's the 3rd highest rated receiver on their offense, but he's very clearly their best player, comfortably. I mean, he is awesome. He's only listed at 6'3" in Madden. That's not correct. He is 6'5". He is large, very large human being. Jennings Parmelli, a redshirt sophomore from Florida, headlines this kind of next tier, if you will. I would say 2nd to 3rd round guys. Parmelli is 6'2", 195 pounds. He's built a little bit more normal. He's not as big as the others, which doesn't really say a whole lot because they're all giants. Parmelli has had inconsistent quarterback play throughout his collegiate career, and I think he's been able to make the most with a little, per se. He's fast, he's athletic. He really doesn't have many major weaknesses. He's got good hands, he runs good routes, he's a good enough separator. He really is a pretty flawless prospect in the sense that he doesn't really have that one standout trait, but he doesn't have any question marks. I think he's really well-rounded. He's just been really rock solid over the last 2 years at Florida, and I feel like the floor for a 21-year-old sophomore is really high. I don't think the ceiling is as high as the others because, again, he doesn't have that standout trait. He's not as big. He's not as fast. But I think he's really good, and I think he's got a chance to contribute very early on for whoever picks him. Run Johnson out of Auburn can really run. He certainly can live up to his name, put it that way. He's another guy who has sort of made the best out of a questionable situation at Auburn with the quarterback play. Now, this year, Auburn is 6-1, very quietly. Give them credit. They're playing some good ball. But the quarterback play, ever since Run Johnson got there, has not been the best. 5'11", a little bit over 190 pounds, so he's on the smaller size, but I wouldn't classify him as undersized per se. He's pretty fast, but I would say he's quicker than he is fast. He's a route technician. I think he's at his best in the intermediate game. 10 to 20 yards down the field, he is money. His hands are not the best. That's an area of his game he's got to improve upon. He's also only scored 4 times in his entire career. Parker Zasko scored 4 times last week. On one hand, again, the quarterback play hasn't been great, but you'd like him to turn some of these big plays into touchdowns. He doesn't have a catch longer than 30 yards this year, despite the fact that he's really quick and agile. Auburn needs to do a better job of getting him to stretch the field vertically and get him going in space after the catch, because I think he really can be a weapon with the ball. Going into the year, I thought Demir Savage from Ohio State would be a top 10 pick. He was the preseason wide receiver 2, behind Suro Dianobles. However, that has not materialized. Aside from the fact that his production has been disappointing, I do kind of think we went a little bit overboard on him to begin with. I think we just kind of looked at the helmet and said, hey, here's the next great Ohio State first-round receiver. Had 1,000 yards as the wide receiver 2 last year as a redshirt freshman. TK Dicer's gone. He's going to break out. That has not been the case at all. And when you combine the fact that he's undersized, he is 6 foot, he's not short, but he's only 180 pounds. He's not slow, per se, but he's not fast either. And a lot of his attributes are overall kind of capped out. It doesn't really feel like there's that much exciting about him as a prospect. Sure, he had 1,000 yards last year, but he had less attention on him from opposing defenses compared to TK Dicer, and he played in an offense with a ton of passing volume with Wambly Mendoza. Now, it doesn't help that this year his quarterback is very inaccurate, Malachi Foreman, the redshirt freshman. I'm sure if Wambly Mendoza was throwing him the ball, it would probably be a little better. Nonetheless, Savage has been disappointing this year, and I just don't really think physically he's that impressive of an NFL prospect to begin with. Marcus Blower from South Florida. Blower, I never even met her. So he was the wide receiver 2 a year ago as well, behind Jalen Davies-Landiner, who, as we know, is a total machine and nearly won the Heisman Trophy. Well, Davies-Landiner is now with the Bengals. Blower has become the number 1, and unlike Demir Savage, I think he's done a better job with that new role. His numbers are really impressive. It certainly helps that he's in a pass-happy offense. He isn't the most athletic per se, but he's got good hands. He can run pretty much every route in the route tree. He's really good in the short to intermediate game, but he can stretch the field as well when Florida State does choose to go deep. And he's a fun player after the catch. At 6'1", 200 pounds, I think he's really physical at his size as well. Generally, when you have a player at that size, they're not always the toughest at the catch point. He is. 22 touchdowns last year, only 5 this year, but he's been really, really good, and I think is worthy of a top 100 pick, even if the numbers are probably inflated, playing in a very pass-happy offense. I like Joshua Finney quite a bit. We've gotten to play Miami each of the last 2 years. I've been impressed every time I've seen him. 6'3", 210. Players like him should not be able to move at that size. He is really exciting after the catch. His footwork with the ball in his hands is unbelievable. In terms of the receivers, it might be better than anyone, kind of like how Chris Mickens is at the running back position. He's really fast. He's got pretty good hands. He's a pretty good route runner. Almost in some ways a little similar to Dorian Sahara in the sense that he's a really good receiver prospect, but what really pushes him over the edge is how good he is with the ball. He's a pretty good route runner. He's got pretty good hands. I wouldn't say they're great, per se. The numbers are really solid. He's averaging 90 yards a game this year, 8 touchdowns with Miami. He had a crazy one against Virginia Tech where he caught one on an RPO, made Mitch Myrie collapse to the ground, essentially. Let's scroll down a little bit, look at some day 3 guys. Matthew Thurf out of USC. Big guy, big production, having a really nice senior season with the Trojans. I kind of thought Travis Faust, if anyone, was going to have the year that Zasko is at SMU. I thought Travis Faust would be the Mustang who really breaks out. That has not proven, of course, to be quite the case so far, but he is still really good. Baxton Walling from Notre Dame. I like him. He's having a nice year. Connor Gunter from Texas, nicknamed the Slim Reaper, having a pretty solid first year as a starter at only 21 years old. Benny DiCaprio has become the number 1 pass-catching option in Wyatt Cruz's offense at Oklahoma, 6'2", 215. Let's get to the Texas Tech duo. These guys are quite interesting. Will Sara and Elvis Phantom. Phantom's a guy who was really good early in his career at Baylor, disappointing as a junior, transfers to Texas Tech, trying to take over the Caleb Hobbs role, hasn't quite been able to. But then Will Sara. At times last year during the playoff, he was the best player on the field, and he could have easily won the playoff MVP if he was a little bit better in the national championship. He was in the same receiving corps as Caleb Hobbs, the 10th overall pick by the Broncos, who we're going to see in a little bit today, and Jordan Newton, who was drafted in the 3rd round, and it felt like at times Will Sara was the best of the group. He's fast, good hands, good routes, good after the catch, but he is really small. He's 5'8", 172. He really doesn't have many major issues other than that, but the lack of size will certainly hold him back a little bit. He's probably going to primarily have to play in the slot. He did a lot in the playoff last year where he was really good, so we'll see if he's able to keep that going. Him and Elvis Phantom, I feel like, are both playing a little bit better as the year's gone along. With the addition of Mark Armstrong, I think Texas Tech's passing game is a little worse than last year, largely because their top 2 receivers are gone. These 2 guys are not as good, but they're still solid. D'Angelo Butler from Nevada, not a big school guy, but is quietly having a really good year. Alejandro Romano from Arizona State. Last year, he had some huge games. This year, he's been playing pretty well, too. Kamari Akins from New Mexico. He's a good player. I want to dissect Marquise Maryland, though. He's really interesting. He's 5'8", less than 180 pounds. So the conversation is very similar to Will Sara in the sense that, well, size is probably going to be an issue, and he's probably going to have to play a lot of the slot. I think he can do it. Good route runner. He's really good vertically, stretching the field, so you can kind of use him in a variety of different ways. He doesn't necessarily just have to be a short yardage guy, but rather he can be more than that. What's especially interesting, though, about Maryland is that he's a 99 overall. He is the only player in the entire EA College Football 26 roster that's a 99 overall, not counting for morale, either this year or last year. So technically speaking, over the last 2 draft classes, he is the most talented player there. So why is he going in the 7th round? Well, his first year at Miami, he had 1,300 plus yards and 22 touchdowns. But he hasn't been able to recapture the magic. Only 16 touchdowns since. He missed quite a bit of last year with an injury. He didn't play against us. He didn't play in the playoff. He is healthy, though, which is a big deal because I think they are going to need him. Eric Imantasitas from TCU is really solid. Brennan Bush from Rutgers, big physical body. Got to shout out a little bit lower, Rajon Jones from Kansas, rock chalk. Preston Wells leads all active players in receiving, but he hasn't played all that well over the last couple of years, and he's also really slow. It's kind of like the Demir Savage conversation, but like up the notch. He has not played that well over the last couple of years, and he really doesn't have the athletic traits to make up for those. All right, so with that, we shift our attention to a huge game upcoming here against the Denver Broncos. This is a big opportunity for us for a number of reasons. I mean, aside from the fact that there's a logjam in the AFC wildcard picture, and we have a chance to kind of position ourselves ahead of some of those teams. This is a big game against a really good team and an opportunity for our young Browns to show that they can hang with the big boys a little bit. The Broncos have a really good offense, but they do kind of lack a true number 1 wide receiver, although Caleb Hobbs has kind of taken over that role since Courtland Sutton got injured. Sutton will not go in this game, a big loss for the Broncos, but they've still got plenty of weapons regardless, and their team is really well-rounded. I think that's the big thing with Denver. They have no weaknesses. Their passing game is stout, their run game is stout. Defensively across the board, they're one of the best units in the league. They have a top 10 scoring offense, a top 3 scoring defense. They're just really sound. I mean, there's a reason why they are 9-1, and they are the number 1 seed right now in the AFC. They can beat teams in shootouts. They beat the Raiders 45-35, and then 2 weeks later, they beat the Rams 13-6. Any way you need them to win, close game, blowout, high scoring, low scoring, they've probably done it. Their only losses to the Chargers, who are a really solid team, but since the bye week, they haven't played very well offensively, only 18.5 points, which is quite a bit lower than they have been previously. The Chargers, for what it's worth, 8-3, they're having a really strong year. So as we look at this Broncos team, they are taking full advantage of having a quarterback on a rookie contract by trading for Nick Bosa at the deadline, and it costed a lot. They traded their next 2 first-rounders, but Nick Bosa is one of the best defensive players in the NFL, and he really raises the ceiling on what was already a really, really good defense. They are taking full advantage of Bo Nix being cheap while they get the opportunity. They're certainly going to have to pay him eventually. Pat Surtain is a 99 overall. Only 6 guys in the NFL are 99 overall, not accounting for morale. Myles Garrett also on that list. So that speaks to how good Surtain is, a former defensive player of the year in this secondary. Let's look at our good friend, Bo Chapman Nix. My glorious knight in shining armor, my Pookie Wookie bear. Where do I even begin? This will be our first time playing against Bo after using the Broncos last year for the series, and we had Bo Nix the entire time, and he was really solid. What's crazy, though, is the 2 seasons so far in this series statistically are better than Bo Nix ever was in the Broncos franchise on Madden 25. I mean, he's been balling this year. 21 touchdowns to 3 interceptions. He's playing out of his mind. Now, he is coming off his worst passer rating game of the year, but he's in 4th place right now for the MVP. So this Denver team, they're not 9-1 because of the guys around the quarterback, but rather they're 9-1 because they've got a quarterback who can elevate the players around him. Three-headed monster in the backfield with J.K. Dobbins, R.J. Harvey, and Najee Harris, all of whom have played a lot this year. All 3 of these guys have missed some time this year, so they've all had differing roles, but they're all healthy today. No Cortland Sutton, but we'll get to see our good friend, marvelous Marvin Mims, along with Caleb Hobbs, the 10th overall pick from Texas Tech, the national championship game MVP, put up 200 in the title game against Kieran Riddle's Alabama Crimson Tide. So far in the NFL, he has looked the part of a top 10 pick. He is awesome. He's a 79 overall right now. Remember, he was drafted a little bit lower in terms of rating, but he does have superstar development, giving the Broncos a true focal point of the offense for years to come. So far during his rookie year, he has 50 catches, 564 yards, and 4 touchdowns. That leads all rookie receivers. He's in 2nd place for the AFC Offensive Rookie of the Year, only behind Kieran Riddle. Now, I think both of those guys are going to lose to Wamley Mendoza and Zarius Stone in the NFC, but still pretty cool to see how well Caleb Hobbs has been playing. And, of course, they've got Pat Bryant, the youngster from Illinois, and another Duck, Troy Franklin. Sco Ducks! They've got a good offensive line. Quinn Miners leads the way. If only him and Garrett Bowles were this good in the series. Quinn Miners stunk. They've got plenty of good defensive players outside of Surtain and Bosa. They are top 5 in terms of defensive scoring. They're top 5 in terms of passing yards allowed per game. They are top 5 in terms of rushing yards allowed per game. This may very well be the best defense in the NFL. Our offense is in for a challenge. This is such a big opportunity, I feel like, for Kieran Riddle in a big game and against an elite defense to show the world who he really is. 2nd and 4, Riddle connects with David Njoku to the 47, wrapped up by Drew Sanders. It's great having Njoku healthy. Missed quite a bit of time earlier in the year. RPO, it's Jerry Jeudy on 1st down. The former Bronco pushed out of bounds as Nick Bonito is hurt. That is not good news. Bonito, the Robin, if you will, to Nick Bosa's Batman, going to the locker room. He, of course, was really good in the Broncos series last year. Even won a Defensive Player of the Year. 2nd and 3 at the 35. Browns moving it well early here on the opening drive. Thrash in motion, play action for Judkins. Riddle to the right side. Under pressure, sends it down the field. It's caught by Jeudy, who makes a really nice play on the ball. He's able to get it away from Jahdae Barron. And Jerry Jeudy brings it to the 10. A strong start, really strong start so far for Kieran Riddle. I think he's 5 for 5. 3rd and goal at the 3. Now Riddle's 5 for 6. As he looks for Jeudy, runs a great route, but it's overthrown. Riddle overthrew David Njoku on 2nd and goal on a similar play. That's back-to-back misses for the Riddler. We're going to go for it. 4th and goal, back to the air. Judkins walks it in for a touchdown. Arguably a bold decision to throw the ball after Riddle had 2 straight bad passes. But look, we trust this rookie. We changed the play call a little bit, and he's able to deliver it to Judkins. This defense is one of the best in the NFL. That didn't stop us from marching down the field with an opening drive score. Nick slobs it up. It's overthrown on 3rd down. He was looking for Marvin Mims. That'll lead to a punt, a 3 and out for the Broncos. Browns get it back. 2nd and 6 of the 31. Riddle dances around, now goes to the left. Riddle scrambles. Riddle sets his feet, fires for Sahara, who is hit hard by Patrick Surtain. Really nice play, though, by Riddle. I thought he was going to run with it, but Sahara was able to get open late and away from the Defensive Player of the Year. Dylan Sampson tries to cut it inside. He loses a yard, and he is hurt. That is not good news. So Denver loses Nick Bonito, but that arguably offsets with us losing Dylan Sampson going to the locker room. Well, this certainly changes the dynamic of the run game. Kendre Miller's in the backfield right now, but it's going to be the Quinshon Judkins show as Jamari Thrash gets 10 on 3rd and 11. I decided to punt the ball on 4th and 1 at the 46, and my reasoning is I wanted to pin Denver deep. I feel really confident in our defense. Let's continue to win the field position battle. Nick's under pressure on 1st down. It's caught. Evan Engram runs the wrong way. Quentin Lake brings him down shy of the yard to gain. 3rd down and 9 at the 10. Nick's under pressure from Garrett. It's caught. That's J.K. Dobbins, who only gets a couple. So I guess the decision to punt might have worked out because we're going to get the ball back with pretty similar field position. 3rd down and 3, under a minute left in the quarter. Kendre Miller in at running back. Riddle looks to throw it. Under pressure. His pass is broken away. Looking for Thrash, trying to high point the ball. But he is unsuccessful. And we're going to punt it again. Try to pin him deep once more. 3rd and 11 at the 8. Knicks under pressure. It's a screen. Dobbins to the outside. He does not get the first down. Greg Newsome brings him down, and that will wrap up the first quarter. 3 drives, 0 first downs for the Broncos so far, who have like 20 offensive yards. Our defense is playing so well to start this game, and I feel like they have turned a corner over the last month or so. Even if the scores don't suggest it, we're due for a low-scoring game like this. Browns have it back, 2nd and 5, just shy of the 50. Riddle is thrown down by Nick Bosa. That sack would have been a little bit more personal from Bosa if, Kieran Riddle was a little different. Holding on Jamari Sawyer, the penalty is declined. It's 3rd down and 16 now for Cleveland as Riddle's going to look to throw it. Up the middle, it is caught. Dorian Sahara gets 9. Not enough for the first down. Good tackle by Dre Greenlaw. We're going to punt it again. Try to pin them back deep once more. Bojorquez has sent a pair of punts just barely inside the 10. This one better. Down at the 3. What a punt by the Browns. And now Denver comes back with rough field position. 2nd and 7 at the 6. How will Bo Nix get them out of this jam? No first downs yet for Denver until now. Finally, they get the camel to break the straw up the monkey's back. Whatever the saying is. J.K. Dobbins gets about 9. That'll keep the chains going. A few plays later, 3rd and 9. Nix hit as he throws by Myles Garrett, and it's incomplete. Another stall drive for Denver. A goose egg for the Broncos in the first half. Their offense is getting nothing. Riddle on 2nd and 8. Hit as he throws, looking deep. It's intercepted. Jahdae Barron picks it off, and Denver finally has good field position. The 45 is by far the farthest they've been down the field. Not necessarily a bad read. Riddle wanted to go deep for Judy, hoping he would break away from the corners. The problem is he got hit as he threw it. That jarred the pass, and Barron's able to track it down. So Denver starts at the 46. Look at this field position. Dobbins gets it to the opposing 39-yard line. A really good run by All Day, J.K. Denver has it past the 50 for the first time, although it's really the defense's fault. Kind of like the Houston game. Good throw up the middle. That one caught inside the 30. It's Caleb Hobbs, the rookie from Texas, finally looking to make his mark. He's been quiet so far in this one. From the 27, Nix looks to throw it, steps up, and it is caught. Hobbs again to the 14. Now all of a sudden they're starting to get this ultra-talented young rookie a little bit more involved. 1st and 10 at the 14. Nix looks to throw it. Nix scans the field under pressure. Okay. He could have thrown it away at some point. He could have ran for some yardage, but you know what? Sure. 3rd and 7, post 2-minute warning. Nix looks to throw it, and he will throw it away under a ton of pressure as Bo Nix is hurt on the play. That is not good news at all for the Broncos. Fellow Oregon Duck Kosumi Bigman is the one colliding with Bo in the backfield as he'll be checked on the bench. Field goal unit on the field for the Broncos. 28-yarder is up and good. The shutout is no more. Denver on the board, and Cleveland gets a 2-minute drill. We march right down the field on that opening drive, scoring a touchdown, taking the early lead. Since then, we haven't looked too great. We've been a little bit more conservative with the play calling, and it's kind of backfired. Riddle up the middle. He's got David Njoku to the 37-yard line. Big-time throw, standing tall in the pocket. And Cleveland is looking strong early on this drive. Under 40 seconds, 3rd and 5 off play action. Sahara gets by Hufanga and is into the end zone for a touchdown. Dorian Sahara, that's 4 weeks in a row. He has found the end zone, and the Browns add to their lead. What a quick and impressive drive. Some big-time throws by QB1, Kieran Riddle, giving his guys opportunities to make plays with the football. Denver has 24 seconds and a timeout in their back pocket. 3rd and 8. Nix looking down the field. Broken away for Evan Engram. That's Quentin Lake who got a hand on it. And that will do it for a surprising opening half in Cleveland. The Browns I don't want to say full control, but in control. So far, the Broncos Offense has done enough. Defense has been unbelievable. They have been awesome. Every phase, pass defense, run defense, pass rush, coverage, it's been great. So we'll take a look at some other scores. We'll start with the Ravens and Panthers. Keep pounding. Panthers win would help us out in terms of wild card standings. Our wish is not their command. Lamar Jackson outplays Darius Stone. Ravens win it 27-20. The Titans, will get to see them in a couple of weeks. Another big-time wild card contender. They're headed to the day to face off against the Cowboys. This was on Thanksgiving, by the way. And it was Dallas who ended up giving the home fans something to be thankful for. 35-29. Both Dak Prescott and Cam Ward playing very well. The earlier Thanksgiving game, a rematch of an exciting Thanksgiving matchup a couple of weeks ago. Buffalo heads to Detroit to face off against the Lions. Both teams 5-5. Big opportunity for each of these teams in their respective playoff races. And it's Detroit who sends the fans thankful for their Lions, particularly the defense. If nobody got me, I know Kelvin Shepard got me. Do they still have John Morton running the plays? I sure hope not. Here's a look at all the scores across the rest of the NFL as we go into the second half here. Defense is playing great. Denver has less than 100 yards of offense. They had like 20 in the first quarter. Bo Nix has been largely ineffective up to this point. So let's just keep doing what we're doing on defense. It's clearly working. Offensively, however, other than the first and last drives of the half, the offense really got nothing going. And now Dylan Sampson is probably going to miss multiple weeks with a long-term injury. I'm good with Quinshon Judkins being the guy, but we don't have another guy ready and prepared to really be the RB2. I don't think the other guys on the roster are quite good enough. Denver starts with the ball here in the third. Nix down the field. What a throw into the bucket. Evan Engram to the 43-yard line. And that, my friends, is why the Broncos are really excited about Bo Nix. 2nd and 8. Here's R.J. Harvey with a spin. Oh, what a play by R.J. Harvey. A gain of 22 yards. I'm going to put the Broncos in the red zone with a chance to score. Nix, 1st and goal from the 6. It's going to be a read option. Bo Nix, Superman dives into the end zone, an homage to the former Auburn quarterback, Cam Newton. Touchdown. Denver is within 1 score. Now, though, they're going to go for 2. Try to make it a 6-point game. The analytics say down by 8. Go for 2. I like the call. I don't like the play call itself, though. Why are you throwing it 5 yards behind the original line of scrimmage? Carson Schlesinger, the one with the TFL, as the Browns have it back. 3rd down and 8 at the 27. Riddle looks to throw it up the middle. It's Jamari Thrash, who does not get the first down. Great piece of tackling by the veteran Dre Greenlaw. We're going to have to punt it away. Denver gets it back, only down by 5. Touchdown takes the lead. The offense looked pretty good on that last drive. Nix on 2nd down. He'll go short. It's R.J. Harvey. Breaks the tackle. Got to do a better job bringing him down earlier as he gets it past the 50. 3rd down and 5, now at the 45. Nix looks to throw it down the field. One-on-one. Caleb Hobbs. He's got it. Denver takes the lead. Their offense has ignited here in the 3rd quarter. Where was any of this in the first half? They had 3 points. They were not moving the ball at all. I don't know what Sean Payton told these guys in the locker room, but clearly it worked. The offense has totally come alive. Bo Nix has time to throw it. And unsurprisingly, to those who know ball, he's been really impressive. Denver's going to go for 2 again. That one is caught. They say he wasn't in bounds, though. He only got 1 in. Great tackle by Carson Schlesinger. It looked like a shoo-in that would work. Browns have it back. Judkins loses a yard. Good job by the Denver defensive line to get the stop. 3rd down and 9 at the 25. Riddle hit as he throws. It is caught. Njoku. 1st down at the 38. The blitz does not phase Kieran Riddle. He stays in the pocket and he waits for the right opportunity to make the throw. 3rd and 10. It's the other tight end, Harold Fannin, with the 1st down. The offense is starting to get a little something here. They're starting to move it better than they have at times throughout the game. 2nd down and 2. Final play of the 3rd if we get it off. Judkins cuts it to the outside. Judkins, 1st down, juke move. He gets it inside the 20. That'll wrap up the 3rd. Pretty bad quarter for us overall. We allowed a pair of touchdowns. Granted, They missed the 2-point conversions both times, so they're only up by 1. But still, defense struggled. Denver's offense puts them back in it. Our offense has continued to not really give us a whole lot. But for the first time in a while, we're moving the ball down the field. We've got it in the red zone at the 17-yard line and a nice chance to do some damage early here in the fourth. First play of the quarter at the 17, RPO. Sahara pummeled to the ground by Talanoa Hufanga for a loss of a yard. Not even Dorian Sahara, his ability after the catch, was able to keep his balance there. Third down and 7, now at the 14. Riddle looks to throw it. Riddle surveys the field. He rolls to the right, on the run, it's caught! David Njoku in the end zone for a touchdown, and the Browns are back ahead. What a savvy play by Kieran Riddle. He was patient in the pocket. Nobody opens up. Eventually he sees both Njoku and Isaiah Bond running towards that bottom right corner of the end zone. So he figures, why don't I roll to the right? One of these guys is going to get open. And, well, that's exactly what happened. Now to go for 2. Judkins is stopped short by Nick Bosa. Nobody's getting their 2-point conversions today at all. Denver's got it back under 8 minutes to go, trailing by 5, in danger of losing their second game of the year. Knicks, 3rd and 2, under pressure. It's Mason Graham who brings him down. Finally, we're in the backfield with a sack. We've been sending pressure. We haven't been able to finish these plays off. Wow, is that a huge play for Graham individually? Obviously, it's been a rough year for him. And our defense was at its best last week when he was out of the game. So, imagine it's been a long week for him. Good that he got the sack. As on second down, we lose a yard. That'll make it a 3rd and 11. Kendre Miller is the de facto RB2, I guess. As that one is caught. Not going to be enough, though, for a first down. Dre Greenlaw has been all over the field, as it's only a gain of 8. This could be Denver's last chance. There's only a handful of minutes left. As that one is caught, Evan Engram to the 41-yard line. I don't think Denver has to be too worried about the clock yet. They can still move at their own pace and at their own leisure. But if they don't score here, then the clock certainly becomes an issue. 3rd and 3. They're going to lose 7. Baron Browning, what a play. Reads it perfectly. And they decided to punt the ball. Wow. Interesting. So that puts us back at the 16. Clearly, they trust their defense to get a stop. Their defense has played well today. We're without one of our 2 running backs. 3rd down and 4. Riddle looks to throw it. Riddle has Sahara open for a first down past the 40. Huge play by Riddle and Sahara. It's the 2 rookies who make one of the biggest plays of the game, as that will lead to a timeout by the Broncos. 2nd and 7. RPO again. Hickson this time out of bounds with a first down and more past the 40. And now it's really not looking good for Denver. They are in big trouble. They might not, in fact, get the ball back. And their decision to punt the ball with 3 minutes left, who knows? Maybe they were gambling. First down ends it. Judkins says sayonara. Why is he diving? I wanted him to go down, not dive. But, hey, he got the first down. He didn't fumble the ball. That's all that matters. A loud and clear statement by the Browns made to the rest of the National Football League. Even at 9-1, you think you can walk into our trap and take over our trap? I don't think so. What a freaking win for the Browns. That pushes us above 500 at 6-5. When's the last time the Browns were above 500 this late in the year? We performed really well defensively. That's the biggest reason why we won. Sure, they scored, 12 points in the third quarter? They had 3 the rest of the way. Their defense did some really, really good things in this one. The offense was up and down. Up and down. That's the best way to put it. Defense played really, really well in this game. The run defense was solid. The pass defense was terrific. We didn't need sacks or turnovers. We didn't need those big plays. The defense was still really good regardless, and it felt like they were due for a big showing after playing well over the last couple of weeks despite the scores. That certainly ends up being the case today. So we improved to 6-5, a 20-15 win. Denver actually ran the ball reasonably well, 5 yards a pop. The problem is they couldn't really throw it. Our pass game was a lot more efficient than theirs. Kieran Riddle had another good game, 23 for 35, 266, 3 touchdowns, did have an interception. Bo Nix, meanwhile, was largely unimpressive. 13 for 22, 140, and a touchdown. He wasn't bad, but he had some misses. He wasn't good, I would say, either. As we take a look at the rushing stats, I was impressed with Quinshon Judkins, although he's going to have to keep doing this with Dylan Sampson out of the lineup. I'm not sure if Judkins can. Maybe? Because there's only one way to find out. J.K. Dobbins was solid. R.J. Harvey was really good in the 7 touches that he got. He ended up with 54 yards, including a 22-yarder. Bo Nix with a couple of runs. And then as we get through the air, largely a team effort for us. Sahara leads the way. David Njoku right there. Caleb Hops, of course, with a touchdown. That's pretty dope. For the rookie Bronco by way of Texas Tech, I thought both offensive lines played well. I was really impressed, especially with our run blocking. Pass blocking, honestly, was good, too. It was a really strong day up front. For them, they didn't allow that many sacks, only 2. And I'm not even sure if the one by Baron Browning really even would count. But it was, first of all, good to see Mason Graham out there making plays. Second of all, it was a big game because, well, as of right this very second, if the season ended today, the Cleveland Browns would be in the playoffs. I don't want to get overly excited, but it is something getting you excited about. Dylan Sampson broke his collarbone. I'm not excited about that. He'll be out for the next 5 games, meaning most of the remainder of the regular season, with the expectation that he'll be back maybe week 18-ish, but that certainly sucks. We need Sampson out there. He's a big part of the offense. Quinshon Judkins will have to be the RB1 moving forward. Maybe we add somebody out of free agency as well, give us a little bit more depth. But I do feel confident with Quinshon Judkins taking on a bigger load of the carries, even in the absence of his partner in crime, Dylan Sampson. Big win against the formidable offense. We're going to give credit to the coordinator because, well, that's just the smart answer rather than being all confident. We'll pass it over to our teammate here who will think highly of us. So with that, I'm ready to simulate the week. Let's go through week number 12 across the NFL. We will start in Cleveland. A surprising result earlier in this one. The Cleveland Browns with an opportunity to show the world that they are a legitimate playoff contender, and they are a contender this year. Defeat arguably the favorite in the AFC right now, the Denver Broncos. Bo Nix, 3 more touchdowns. This one arguably is most impressive. Evading pressure. He's able to set his feet and launch a bullet in the end zone. And the Browns win it 15-20. It's hard to believe that 2 weeks ago we just lost by 24 against one of the worst teams in the NFL, in the Texans. 6-5 Cardinals, 8-2 Eagles at the Link. We just saw Kieran Riddle with a big win. How about one for Wambly Mendoza? 38-34, Mendoza throws 5 touchdowns in the victory against the Eagles, showing the world that the Cardinals are a real playoff team this year and that it looks like they might have found something here at quarterback with Mendoza. Last but certainly not least, we are headed to the jungle. The Bengals have the chance to get full control of the 1 seed given Denver's loss. My goodness, it is raining. It rains a lot in Florida. That probably helps the Jaguars, and they took advantage of their prior experience with the conditions, winning at 20-13. So that means both the number 1 and 2 Bengals and Broncos, we are within 3 games of them, just saying. I'm not going to get all confident here, but it is worth noting. Let's take a look at our scores across the rest of the NFL. The Falcons with a close win over the Saints. We'll get to see Atlanta next week. Jets won. So much for winless for Wells. The Texans also won. Nobody can tank right. What is going on? Nobody wants Tyree Wells, I guess. Players of the week, Wambly Mendoza, Cameron Ward, Derek Barnes, and Lucas O'Brien, the rookie out of Kentucky. Doubleheader in the next episode. We're headed to the A to face off against the Dirty Birds, the Atlanta Falcons. And then week 14, really big game against Cam Ward and the Titans. Both teams are certainly in the mix for playoff spots. We are in 8th place. We are tied with the Ravens technically for 7th. So while we're out of the playoffs, we're not out by much.